It is an honor to be here. I think I can't see anybody, it's too light. I think it's an honor to be here. It really is the highlight of my year to be able to stand in front of Chazaq, in front of Queens, my hometown, the home of the greatest pizza store in the world, Shimon's Pizza. For those that didn't get the joke, you should go to Shimon's, you'll understand. I am truly humbled to be able to speak on the same podium as one of the greatest individuals that we have in our people, Rabbi Tursky, an individual who has guided our community for years. We are right now what should be in the most exciting period of time. We should be walking around on fire. You see, right now, we are in between two moments of Geula. Geula isn't just redemption, like one day we'll go to Israel. Geula is when things work out. Utopia. When Hashem shows up and all of our problems go away. When someone's sick and they get healed. When someone needs parnasa and they get it. When someone looks for somebody to marry and they find them. When someone's trying to have children. When we struggle and God shows up and saves us, it's Geula. And we are sandwiched between the two moments of Geula. In fact, we are right now in the middle of this period of time where we come from the Geula of Purim. We're entering into the Geula of Pesach, and it's only getting better from there, because from there we get to the Omer and we end with the Torah. We are right now in what's supposed to be the greatest period of time in the Jewish calendar. But for some reason, I don't feel it. I feel like we're not walking around like Geula Jews. We don't have that energy. We don't feel that redemption. Why? So I want to talk to you about something that is the beginning of this period. As we enter into this incredible period of Geula Purim, Geula Pesach, Matan Torah, we have the strangest custom, maybe of the entire year, that is literally the first thing we do. The first thing we do before we enter into all the fun, before we have Purim and Pesach, the first thing we do, the first custom that we do, is maybe the strangest custom of the year. We have a Shabbos right before Purim, and we dedicate that Shabbos to our greatest enemy. Now, we've got a lot of people that hate us. We're the Jewish people. That's how it works. You try to kill us, we beat you, and we eat. That's how we roll. We find one of your leaders, we dip him in oil, and the kids think you get a mitzvah for eating it. That's how it works. You know what I'm talking about? Like Hanukkah, somehow we had a miracle in oil, we found a way to dip everything in oil and feel like we're getting a mitzvah for it. Because we're the Jewish people, and we have grandmothers that make us think this way. God bless Jewish grandmothers, for those that just scream back. If it wasn't for Jewish grandmothers, we wouldn't know that margarine is healthy for you. You know what I'm talking about? And the true way to diet, according to Jewish grandmother, is eat more and more and more, because that's how we're supposed to live. And we have this entire litany of people that hate us. But there's one that we seem to be obsessed with. They're called Amalek. Right? Now listen, tell me if this is strange to anybody. We have this weekend where we have this obligation to remember them. Why? Because we have this obligation to obliterate their memory. Watch this. Our job in this world is to erase the memory of Amalek. So here's what we do. We get together in shul. Now, going to shul with a minyan is a midrabanan. There is one time a year where God makes it into a d'oraisa. It means you have to be in shul. And it's so important that all the rabbis are like, listen guys, for real, we're reading Amalek, and please, we have 4 readings, 5 readings, 10 readings, 20 readings, ladies, please, guys, please. And finally, everyone's quiet for the first time all year, and we read like 3 or 4 pasukim about Amalek, and the entire reading is, to remember Amalek. Do you know why? Because we're supposed to forget Amalek. Anybody following this? There's no more Amalek. Amalek was a people that was like 2,000 years ago. We don't know who they are, so we like make it up. Like the Nazis were Amalek, the Arabs are Amalek. The guy who failed in my road test, Amalek for sure. Two Jews are fighting, they're both Amalek. We have no idea who these people are. In fact, the only people in the world that remember Amalek are the people that are supposed to forget them. Anybody following? I have an idea, it's called the Harary plan. Let's put the whole Amalek story back in like the summertime where half of us are snoozing anyways. And like in 2 years, the kids will be like, yeah, Amalek, yeah, we forgot about them. And we will effectively erase the memory of Amalek. Why do we dedicate a weekend to them? Because we're supposed to erase their memory. What in the world is going on? So allow me to tell you a story. This happened a few years ago. I am like one of these like Israeli like conspiracy theory guy. I love reading all like the spy novels. I'm like, you know, in my head I was like a Mossad agent in a previous life. And like I'm always thinking like I'm in the loop of what's going on, like, you know, with Iran, whatever. So a bunch of years ago, Iran, as you know, has this really new idea. They want to kill the Jewish people. You've heard this before? And they have, like, listen, we don't like the Jewish people, so here's what we're going to do. They built a nuclear bomb, or they're trying to build a nuclear bomb to ultimately send to Israel to wipe us out. So, a few years ago, if you remember, there was this great story about the Israeli and the American spies getting together. And what they did was, they created a virus. And they put the virus into the nuclear plant of the Iranian nuclear facility, and the virus was one of the greatest viruses ever. You tried to attack it and it split, and that virus literally disintegrated the entire nuclear plant, setting back the nuclear program for years. Now when I read that, I had one thought. Now remember, in 1981, Iraq, Saddam Hussein had another great idea, which was to create a nuclear bomb to kill us. On June 7th, 1981, 8 F-16s with Israeli Air Force pilots flew to Iraq and bombed the entire facility, destroying it all. It was an amazing day, I remember it, because they called me for my advice. And I said, you should go for it for sure. I'll be in America, tell me when it's over. So the Iranians, you ready, are thinking to themselves, hey, wait a second, in 81, the Israelis used these fighter pilots to bomb the facility. We're going to build the greatest ground-to-air missiles ever and wait for the Israeli pilots to come and bomb the facility. Meanwhile, the facility was already being virused. And in my head, I am picturing the following scene. Tell me if you can picture this. I am picturing like 50 Iranian guards out with these ground-to-air missiles, like, where are the Israelis? Like, El Jihad, El Jihad, El Jihad, right? Probably like, you know, tons of desert and, you know, camels and BO. You know what I'm saying? The whole place. And they're like waiting for the Israelis. Meanwhile, there's like 2 Israelis like in a bunker in Dimona on like a computer, you know what I'm talking about? Like drinking black coffee, smoking cigarettes, eating like hummus and olives, going like, Yoni, you know? What, there's no got the and these 2 fat Israelis with like their computers are the whole nuclear plant is like crumbling behind these guys. I don't know why that gives me so much pleasure, but it does. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I agree with you. It's awesome. You see, the Iranians made this major mistake. They thought that if we weren't bringing our army, our airplanes, then we weren't fighting them. They thought that the enemy isn't coming because the enemy changed their face. One of the greatest mistakes you can make in warfare is that when your enemy changes his face, you think he's not there. He's there. In fact, you're opening the entire ability for him to get in because you're watching the front when he's sneaking in through the back. Who is Amalek, and why do we care so much about them? So let's jump into the story of Egypt and understand what's going on. We think that the story of Pesach, the story of Egypt, is the story in which God shows up and wants to take the Jews out of Egypt. It's not true. If God wanted to take the Jews out of Egypt, it would have been such a simpler story, right? If you were like God's chief of staff, and God's like, listen, take the Jews out of Egypt, what would you do? It would be a minute, right? You would take Choshech, the 9th plague, you would move it up to the 1st plague. You'd say, here guys, here's the deal, we're showing up, Tuesday afternoon, lights are out, and we're out of here. The Jews could have been having shawarmas on Ben Yehuda Street before the lights went back on, right? And be like, who let the Jews out? It would have been too late. They didn't do that. God shows up, and now he's playing with Paro? For real? Please, can you let him out? No. Okay, here's a plague. Now? No. God, the creator of the universe, has to get permission from the guy he created, who he sustains, 10 times? No way. If you go to the biggest atheist in the world, you sit down and go toe-to-toe with an atheist, you sit down with Richard Dawkins, the Gadol Hador of atheists, and you go one-on-one with him and you go, how did the world create? He has no idea. Even the biggest scientists are sitting around saying there's no God. If you really push them and go, so where did it come from? Like, no, I get it. Where did it start from? They have no clue. Most of humanity believes that God created the world. Where we struggle is not that he created the world. Where we struggle is that he is in the world. We know he created the place, but most people think that he created the place and he's too busy to worry about me and you. He's gone. He's not here anymore. He doesn't know what's going on in our lives. He's not in our families. You think God is actually, you think he cares about me and you? You think he cares about little old me? I'm not a rabbi. I'm not important. I'm a regular nobody. You think God cares about me? Where most of the world is struggling is, is he in the world? So God shows up and says, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show the world that I am here. You know how? I'm going to take my nation, and I'm going to put them in the epicenter of civilization. It's hard to appreciate this. Egypt was at that time the epicenter of civilization. Right now, America is the epicenter of civilization. I don't know how much longer this lasts for, but right now the whole world knows our stuff. Right? You go to Europe, everybody's following our presidential elections. I bet you none of us can even name one president or prime minister in all of Europe. You know what I'm saying? If it wasn't for the live map on the El Al flight to Israel, we didn't know that Europe existed. You know what I'm talking about? It's like hour 7, you're like, oh, that's where Spain is? I had no idea. Europe? Like, what are you saying? Everybody's following America. You ever go someplace and they don't speak English and you're confused? You're like, what do you mean? They're like, well, why would I speak English? I'm in Israel. You're like, but why don't you speak English for it? You know what I'm saying? Because we're in the middle of the world. People watching our movies, wearing our clothes. You know why? Because for however long this lasts, we are in the middle of the world. Whatever we do, everybody talks about. Back then, the middle of the world was Egypt. So listen to God's brilliance. God takes his nation and puts us in the middle of the world, and then tells Paro, hey, let's get him out, and Paro goes no. And he uses Paro's no to show the entire world that not only did he create the place, but that he's in the place. Every plague brought out another bit of who he was. Yes, he knows how to control the sky and the ground and the Nile. Yes, he knows which cattle belongs to Egyptians and which cattle belongs to Jews. Yes, he knows which firstborns. God is in the world. So when the Jews came out of Egypt, it was the greatest experiential lesson of all time. The entire world knew that God's here with us. The Jewish people stood for God is here in the world. And they walked right out, and everybody knew it. And there was one nation that was far away. Amalek was in the bottom of Gaza. Amalek, at those times, was living in the Gaza Strip, that's that zone. We were in the Sinai Desert. We weren't going into their territories. We weren't bothering them. But they couldn't stand us. Do you know why? Because they didn't hate us for being Jews. They hated us for being God's representatives. They hated us for standing that he's in the world. They didn't have a problem with us. They had a problem with him. You mess with us, we'll forgive you. You mess with him, you mess with our dad, you're going down. And from the beginning of time, Amalek stood for one thing. God's not in this world. Amalek's fight from the beginning of time was the same fight. He doesn't really care. He's not really there. And when they came to attack the Jewish people, they weren't trying to kill us. You know what they were trying to do? Draw some blood. They wanted someone to go, really? If he was really with them, how come they lost the battle? Is he really there? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? If Amalek was the goal of Amalek was one thing, to get us to say, maybe he's not really there. And from the beginning of time until now, there is two battles going on every single day. The battle of he's in my life, and the battle of no way he cares about me. Right now as I'm speaking, you're thinking, is he in my life? Does he know my kids? Is he on carpool? I'm struggling to make a living. Is he with me? And every second that you think not, that's Amalek. You see, Amalek didn't go anywhere. You know what happened? They were once a people. You know what they are now? They're a virus. They exist. You know where they are? They're in all our yeshivas. You can have the fanciest building, and in that yeshiva is some Rebbe saying to a kid, you're nobody. They're in our homes. They're in our schools. Everywhere you look, Amalek is sitting with two computers and going, look how nice this is. Look how beautiful this family is. They look so religious. Watch this. Boom. Yeah, you believe in God? I don't think so. Look at this wonderful community. It's amazing. And two guys on a computer, Amalek, going, oh yeah, God's not with you. Click. And every generation. You know why we're not sitting? You know why we're sitting here worried about our safety for? Because Amalek is still around. We just don't see him. And we think we won. We didn't win. So every year God goes, before you walk into the period of Geula, before you get into Purim and Pesach, before you get to all this stuff, here's the deal. You get in the room and you read, remember they're there. Remember they're there. Now go wipe them out. Go be the people that you're meant to be. Go out to the streets and believe in your core that he is with you everywhere. You stand for that he is in the world. And if you for 1 second believe that he is not with you, you are letting the virus spread into who you are. Our goal, our people, our mission is to remind ourselves that not only does he exist, that he loves me and he's with me. My marriage isn't just two people. My kids aren't just people that were born to me. Every second of my life is God whispering to me saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And if we live this way, if we as a nation hold hands and stand for this, then when Geula comes, we'll know we brought it. My bracha to us is that we should be zocheh to be the people that stand for God when it wasn't easy. The people that stood up and held the torch that our forefathers held in Mitzrayim. So when every second of our lives, from good and from bad, we know that not only does he exist, but he loves me and he's with me. And with that strength, maybe, just maybe, we'll be the community that can bring Geula into our days. B'mheira b'yameinu. Amen.